coming, so I think we'll.
Future form,
Yes, future forms.
All right.
aspirational form.
Exactly. I'm happy to help.
There you go.
No. And I'm sorry in a few minutes.
No problem.
I was bolting up to Ninth Avenue.
What about 19?
I said I was bolting up to Ninth Avenue.
All righty.
Okay.
Good.
Great. Good evening. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to those online. I'm Max Green, co-chair of our ACES committee. Before we get started, just going to go over one of our hybrid policies, which is greetings and welcome to the Arts, Culture, Education, and Schools Committee. Manhattan Community Board 4 has a hybrid policy that can be found on our website. Board members are expected to attend meetings in person unless they have a disability or an extraordinary circumstance. Excused members and members of the public will still be able to participate virtually. Members who are joining via Zoom must leave their cameras on. This meeting is being streamed live on our YouTube channel and a transcript is being recorded. So welcome again. On tonight's agenda, we have 3 items. The first is a presentation from the Department of Youth and Community Development. And just as a reminder to our committee members, we wrote a letter last June to DYCD on the English for speakers of other languages, learning more about the programs that they're doing in the HERCs and for some of the migrant families that are newly arrivals to our city. And a copy of that letter was in our Dropbox. So with that, we have asked DYCD to come back to our committee. Thank you so much for joining us this evening and giving us an update on your programs for English language learners and training programs in our facilities. So I believe we have, let's see, is it Alexander? Are you there? Can you hear us?
You're on mute, Alexander. And we also have Ron Zahn from DYCD.
Wonderful. So if you both could unmute yourselves and the floor is yours to give us an update on your work. And again, we appreciate you being here tonight.
Alex, you're on mute.
Go ahead. Ron, you want to take it? I think Alexander's having some trouble getting up mute.
So you want me to get started?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right, good evening. Thank you very much for having me back to report back on the English language classes at the HERC centers. Now, I think it was the end of last fiscal year, I joined you and talked about DYCD's partnership with the HERC sites to deliver 5 English language classes at 5 different HERC centers. That was towards the end of last fiscal year, between April and June. We got started, fiscal year was over. Then, the new fiscal year, FY24, there was a delay in, the final decision on the funding, but eventually we did get funded to continue the initiative at the 5 HERC centers, and we actually got an extra money to do an additional site. So this year, altogether, we have 6 HERC sites where we provide the English language classes. So in FY24, the total funding for this initiative is about $900,000 with 6 providers doing classes at 6 sites. And each site we project to serve 150, to enroll 150 people into the class. And that's basic in a total, for a total of 150 times 6, 900. Okay, so to project to serve 900 people at the sites. So this, our providers are, you probably know some of them. I'll just give you a quick rundown of these programs. On the HANEC, English language program, they are doing a program at the Walcott. It's a hotel on 31st Street, on West 31st Street in Manhattan. Then we have Agudath, Israel of America Community Services, doing a class at Holiday Inn, right downtown here in Manhattan on Washington Street. Then we have Mercy Center, having a program at 99th Street dorms. That's 3rd Avenue on the east side, Manhattan. Then we have JCC of Greater Coney Island. They have a program at the Stewart, a hotel on 7th Avenue in Manhattan. Then Jacob Riis. Jacob Riis started the year with a class at the Wingate Hotel in Queens. Then I think that contract with the hotel, between the hotel and the health and hospital probably was ended in April. So we had to sort of like transition out this program into another site. So health and hospital helped to identify another site in Manhattan. So they are now in the role as a new hotel. That's the hotel is not new, it's a new site for us. It's also in Manhattan. Then we have Center for Family Life in Sunset Park. That program is teaching in the English classes at the Watson, West 57th Street, Manhattan. So these are all the 6 sites, where our 6 providers are providing language classes. As I shared with you last time, the staff at those sites, worked with our providers to recruit and enroll students into the program. Our program, opens classes there with very, flexible schedules because, you don't know, you have to kind of do some assessment to see, what hours, what schedule is best for them. So our programs went in with, schedules of classes in the morning, evening, afternoons, and also weekends. So then, they work with the site staff over there and to determine which schedules work best with the participants over there. And then they, that's how the classes are scheduled. And you all know that, the population of the in those centers, are fairly transient. They come and go. So it's sort of like, it's not an ideal kind of situation for continuity of, instruction and learning. So, we do our best. We offer, classes there, and classes are scheduled are flexible. And also, if students leaves and then there's new residents come in, we immediately work with the staff on site to enroll more into the classes. So the attendance has not, is not as good as our normal programs that we fund at CBOs, right? So because of the nature of the population over there, and the retention, and the stay is all, kind of low. But the good thing is that all programs report that, people are learning, people are happy, And we have staff here that sort of like observe the classes, and they do see that, people are, those who are there are happy, and they're interacting, they're learning, they're engaged. So that's a good thing. So that's pretty much, about this program at this point. Yeah, we hope that this can continue next year, but we don't know until, the budget negotiations is over, probably towards the end of June or July, we probably will know. But at this point, we just, working, very closely with the centers is to, get the program to the end of the year. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. I appreciate it. I'm gonna turn it over to our co-chair, Josephine Ishman, for any questions she may have.
Hi, I do have one question. I'm gonna turn over to Katie because I know that she really wanted to have you all back on. So I understand that, this, obviously this is a transient situation and it's hard to measure any sort of outcomes, like what are the goals, or can you talk a little bit about how the program is set up? Are there any goals, and have you been able to measure any outcomes?
Well, we, normally in our regular funded programs, right? We look at enrollment, we look at academic gain. We use a standardized test to do a pre and post test to see if there is, there's people move up a level in terms of their English proficiency. Then we look at attendance, enrollment, all that. So with this program, we do have these, and our data system, they do use our data system to enter all people they enroll and to show enrollment. We also have asked our providers to do their best to establish, a baseline through the use of the same standardized test, Best Plus, to test people, whoever come in, to test them and catch them before they leave with a post test, and to see if there's any level gain. If not, if there's any incremental small steps, small gains. So whatever we can capture, and we will capture. And I haven't seen a report of that yet, because usually what we do is we run that kind of report for outcomes, towards the end of the year. We can get a sense of that. But programs are testing them. I know it's very hard to get it again, because generally speaking, traditional program, we expect programs to provide a minimum of anywhere between 70 to 100 instruction hours before the post test. Yeah, because you need that much time to realize, the gain and learning, and all that. And also, we do that because we want to avoid the sort of like what we call, practice effect, right? When you use the same test, even though there are different forms of the test, you can use, students can get familiar with the test items, and so then that kind of reduces the effectiveness of the testing. So that's why we try not to use to test students so frequently, and we have a sort of like expectation of number of hours for this. And we didn't put in all those requirements. We just say that use the test to the best you can. And we understand our providers at the beginning were very concerned that we were going to, evaluate the contracts, using the same criteria, same standards. We told them, we want you to implement the program the best you can, following our, the same procedures. But, we understand the situation then, and we were not gonna put our providers in, awkward situation. So we told them that do it, but we're not gonna hold you to that. For example, for regular programs, we say out of the enrolled students who are in the classes, 58% of them are expected to make an educational gain. For this one, last year the program didn't start until April. It was too short a time, so we didn't even test them. But this year we asked them to put in to do the testing again. As you know, this program, because of the decision on the funding, we didn't really start until I think October, November, somewhere there. So it's been, it's also a shortened kind of program. But we hope to at the end of the year we'll hope to see we reach the enrollment. We have some gain, hopefully. And we also want to take a look to see on the average how the average stay of the people in the program. It's very people leave and come, leave and come and leave very often for various reasons.
But still, I mean, I think it's still such a worthy program. Are you asking for the same amount of money, the 900,000?
No, we haven't. This is a program that we know there's a need for this, and our commissioner, has his eyes on this. And right now, we're this Friday, there is this, executive budget hearing, and we're going to talk about, programming for next year. Because this is not, we're not using baseline money. There is no baseline funds for this. This is basically additional funds that made available for us to do this. We got this money this year, and next year, the budget negotiation, I'm pretty sure this will come up again. Once we get this, and we hope to continue this. And we at DYCD, we look at this is a need. We know that our providers see the need once they work with these people, even though it's very hard to conduct formal classes in these under these circumstances. Providers have shared with us that they see there is a huge need. People do need the classes, even though it means you can only come once a week to sit down with a teacher there, even though it may not be formal instruction. It could be sort of like one-on-one tutoring kind of thing. It helps people to get into this, this mentality, and it's helpful. So yeah, we certainly want to support the continuation of this.
Okay, thank you for that, Katie.
Yeah, hi. I had a couple questions, and thank you for the presentation. It's super helpful. You mentioned that you haven't done the sort of academic tests yet, but it sounds like you have already collected from the providers the enrollment data. And I was just wondering, you had said that the goal is to have 150 people at each of the 6 sites. Do you have a sense, have you hit that goal? Is it more often 100 people at each site, or only 40 people at each site? Like, what is the enrollment?
The last time I checked we're somewhere around 60%. So out of the 900, we're a little under we're somewhere between 500 to 600 people enrolled. Because there's one site, as I told you just now, because of I think it's because of the contract between Health and Hospital and the hotel, they had to actually suspend that program there, and then we had to find another site It took a while to find it, but we did find a site, and that program now has started. So that one, was a big loss over there. So, they have like, I think that program has about 60 people for that site. Now they have a new site. They just started. Looks like there is a good momentum there in this site at this site. They just started, so we hope to have to enroll anywhere around 100 people, so we can make 150. But we'll have to see.
And when you say it just started, does that mean it just started in like April or something, like last year's program just started?
Well, that program started they started at Wingate in Queens, and then that contract ended in April, and then we had to end that over there, and then find another site for this provider to go in, and we found a site in Manhattan. They had to go to the site, work with the staff over there, identify people who need the classes at this new site, and they have just finished a recruitment process, and they're starting class this week actually. Yeah, they haven't started.
So some people are just starting in May, but so I guess that'll be hard to.
Yeah, this is a new site, and there will be new people. So then they're gonna have May and June, they're gonna have a 2-month program for this site. And they had between April and November at the other site. So this provider ended up having 2 sites.
I was wondering, has there been any kind of survey done of any of the clients to find out from them how they think it's working? Like, are the hours that are offered working for them? Do they find that the provider is listening to them? Do they find, are they finding it helpful, or are they finding it not helpful? I mean, it sounds like you said at least some places they recognize some people just have to come in almost for one-on-one tutoring, which is great. But I was just wondering if there's been any kind of formal survey done of any of the clients.
No, we haven't, officially from DYCD, we haven't done any survey. But I can certainly, speak with our providers to see if they might have something from, internally there, or the HERC sites, the health and hospital. I can bring that to them. Maybe we should do one. It's a good idea. We should do one just to assess, what people think about the classes, as you just said, the
timing,
content, schedule, and all that stuff. Yeah.
That would be great. And then just one last quick question. You had mentioned that these aren't as successful, you had said, as the mobile units. I don't know anything about your mobile units. Can you sort of tell me how the mobile units work and why they seem to be more successful? Or do you understand?
Mobile units? No, I'm not sure.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood. You had said something, I thought you were comparing these on-site.
Oh, okay. I understand what you're saying. What I'm trying to say is that, we found CBOs to do English language classes, normally, I'll give you a sort of like our program design, program model, right? So any provider that receives funding for literacy services here, they're expected to do, if you set up a class has to offer at least 6 hours of instruction a week. The class has to offer, anywhere between, 70 to 100 instruction hours for a class. So that means, we're giving students that much, time to learn, and then we also let providers know that do not test them, okay, in between, right? They come in, do a survey, do a pre-test, establish the baseline, and then provide instruction. Teachers can do check-ins and progress check and all that on themselves, that's fine. But the official test, they don't do that until the end of the cycle. until the end of the class, and then test them and report those test scores into our database system. And our database would do a comparison between the pre and post tests and to determine if there is a gain. And then there is an expectation from DYCD, right? So you're expected to have 58% of the enrolled students making a level gain, as evidenced by the test scores. For this program at the HERC sites, first of all, we asked the programs to determine the hours, weekly hours themselves with the clients over there. So you have classes of 2 hours a week, you have classes of 4 hours a week. So it depends on the availability. We don't want to offer a 6-hour class and people don't have time to do that. And also the attendance, and we ask programs to keep attendance to but again, we expect an average daily attendance of 15 and we don't really have a requirement. What we just ask our program to keep attendance to see what it looks like. It's the same thing with the testing. Use the same test, pre-test them, post-test them if you can. And of course, if they come in and stay a week or two, there's no point in doing a test, right? So you have to have a certain number of hours to test them. So that's the thing. Our providers, at the beginning, they find it very hard to, sort of like provide the same kind of programming, at the sites with this population. But we understand that, so we say that, we do our best to deliver the service needed. And also, you have to, meet the needs over there. If they're there, if a certain group of people who are there only 2 hours a week, then do 2 hours, So what can you do? You can't just say, oh, you can't do 6 hours, we're going to cancel classes. We're not going to do that. So we're very flexible with the population over there. Yeah, that's.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
Do
great.
I just want to check any questions from committee members online? Okay, could you just remind me the name of the provider at the Watson?
The Watson?
Yep.
Center for Family Life in Sunset Park. CFL.
At Sunset, the Watson on 57th Street? That's the...
Yeah, the CFL is providing classes at the Watson on West 57th Street.
Okay, thank you. And did you say that I heard them brought up twice. Are there 2 different programs at the Watson, or is it is it just the English classes that are being offered there?
It's just from us, it's just there's the ESL classes.
Okay, great. I don't think there's any other questions from the committee. It would be great to follow up on the survey. If you are able to do that, it was one of our recommendations in our letter from last year to do a survey of participants coming into the HERC Center, seeing sort of where they are at, and then understanding sort of the demand and interest. We had also hoped that survey could be used to sort of collaborate with DHS and some of the family shelters in our district to see if the same type of classes could be offered to those sites. So it would be great that we totally appreciate you looking into doing a survey and appreciate you agreeing that there's value in doing that. So
Yeah, sure. I will certainly bring this survey idea to Health and Hospital. So the whole thing is that I think, just think about this survey. I think a survey probably should be administered among the residents over there at the site.
Yeah.
A larger, a group to get a sense of their, their needs and their expectations and all that stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly can bring that to them, because we work with them very closely. We'll see. Because
Thank you so much. Well, we appreciate the update and look forward to continuing the conversation. And getting updates from you later on. So thank you again. Really appreciate it.
sure, no problem. You're welcome.
Thank you, Alexander.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, so next on our agenda is a committee update from Little Island and some of their programming. So I think we got a few folks on. Hi, Michael. Good to see you.
Hi there. How are you?
Good, good.
Great to see you.
Good to see you too. So the floor is yours. But first, we just appreciate you taking the time out of your evening to give our committee an update.
We're very excited. I love committees because committees, you volunteered on top of volunteering. So I always love committees. That's where to go. That's where the heart of the work takes place. So I'm very excited. This is an introduction. Well, we've been holding him in our refrigerator for a while. He's been doing work behind the scenes. I have the pleasure of introducing our new artistic producer, producing artistic director. It is an interesting construction of a title. It reflects Mr. Diller's unique way of working, his iconoclastism. He is an individual, and he has selected a young, what we used to call avant-garde director. I don't know if we use that phrase anymore, but we have a young, exciting director-producer. A director and producer means that they help artists make work. And so I'm going to blow Zach up a little bit before he gets on, because one of the most exciting things that I've been thinking about lately is Zach's intention to move Little Island to a place where he's supporting New York artists more intentionally, specifically thinking about the fact that art is not supported in this country. Right. In other countries, there are different models, different ways in which artists can make work. But what Zach is interested in, what he's done in his career is create work. And he's got an ability now, he's got the power now to give other artists a leg up. So we are really intentionally turning our face toward looking at artists as a big part of our constituency. And we've done that before, but it's just a little bit of a sharper razor blade. And I'm excited to hear Zach talk about it with you tonight. I've also brought my other colleagues. My team has changed a little bit in my title and my approach. The work that I'm doing in the community has changed. You'll still see me, but I want to make sure that you see another face and you know that it's prominent. So I brought Rachel Lee with me to help explain the programming that we have available for your constituents. And Rachel and I talk with our colleagues. Farida Laquan is here. She is one of the associates in Little Island who does public programs. And Farida and Rachel and I talk about the invitation. And Rachel is going to explain the invitation to you, and she'll also give you ways in which you can contribute. Because as you know, Little Island belongs to the public, which means you're our boss. And we want to make sure that you know that, and that you are interacting with us in a way that is, I think, not just a one-off and very far beyond transactional. Those are not the relationships we want. We want friendships. So all that said, here's Zach, and I'm going to let him represent the season to come.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to meet you all and look forward to meeting you all in person, I hope sometime soon. Before we kind of get into like a mini presentation of what the season is, just to kind of piggyback on what Michael was saying, I'm trained as a dancer. I work as a director, mostly between music and dance and theater. And what's most exciting to me, beyond the totally wonderful colleagues over here, many of whom you know already, is an opportunity to really make dynamic work inside of a public space and inside of a civic space, with as much access as possible. And I think the main change here between previous years and this year is that we are embracing a world premiere and commissioning model, which means that everything that will happen in the amphitheater this summer will be new work that we have commissioned, that we have developed, that we have rehearsed, and will premiere and will be the first time that anyone sees it on Little Island. And I think that that is a really exciting thing that I hope is of great utility to artists, in service of artists, and also an extremely engaging, provocative, exciting, entertaining, and delightful thing for audiences, particularly in a moment where it is increasingly difficult to make new work. And that is the reason that so many of us are here and are engaged in culture in New York, is when new work is the motor behind it. So I just want to kind of go through our season and then pass it over to Rachel, and then we'll have some time for questions. So in the amphitheater this summer, between June 1st and September 22nd, we are actually doing 9 world premieres. They are of different lengths, and here's a sort of brief rundown. The opening to our season is the newest full-length dance by the legendary choreographer Twyla Tharp in actually over a decade. She is making a new piece for the island in collaboration with the amazing musician and composer and songwriter and producer T-Bone Burnett. Michael Cerveris is in this, as well as a group of 14 extraordinary young dancers. That runs for 3 weeks at the top of the season. The next show is called Robeson, and it's actually a piece that I'm making with a dear friend and collaborator, Devon Tynes, who's like a superstar bass baritone who's just done his Met debut in El Nino, uptown in Lincoln Center, has just won the Chanel Prize, and is really a force of nature inside of the opera world. And we're doing a show that takes all of the, famous and infamous singers, Paul Robeson's life and work, and sort of turns it upside down to kind of illuminate different parts of his life. After that, which runs for 1 week, we're doing a theatrical adaptation of a very unusual novel that I was really taken by in February called Open Throat, that is a fictional memoir of a gay mountain lion who lives underneath the Hollywood sign. It's kind of one that you just have to see to believe, but this will be done by actors and singers and music and also shadow puppets. And we're doing it directed by Caitlin Ryan O'Connell with an adaptation by the author Henry. After that, we have one of my favorite choreographers, Pam Tanowitz, who just had a recently sold out run at City Center. Her piece is really taking the city as its soundscape. And it starts actually like in the playground on the lawn and sort of Pied Pipers its way into the amphitheater. And then as you're exiting, there will be another performance in the glade in our smaller space. So it really kind of activates the entire island with 7 dancers. After that is the really unbelievable Britton Smith and his funk liberation band, The Sting. This is a guy who is well known as a Broadway performer and won a Tony Award for his activism in co-founding the Broadway Advocacy Coalition. He is also just one of the most electric performers I have ever seen in like a cusping pop star. He has written an entirely new evening of music about water, which is obviously perfect for our venue. And it happens with his band of 9, and the entire thing is choreographed by Ebony Williams, who first came to prominence as one of the Single Ladies women in Beyonce's video and has gone on to this kind of amazing career doing, Alicia Keys concerts and Dua Lipa's arena tours. Another one that I'm super excited about is called the Oyster Radio Hour, which is a live radio show that combines science, story, and song to tell the pretty profound and fascinating history of oysters in the Hudson River. And we're working in collaboration with Rebecca Siegel and the great podcast producer from Radio Lab and Terrestrials, Ana Gonzalez, and a host of composers as well as special guests. And we're doing this in collaboration with Yo-Yo Ma's Our Common Nature project, which was kind of the inception of this idea after he did an amazing pop-up performance on Governor's Island with the Billion Oyster Project. After that, we're doing the Summer Legacy Ball, which is something that is really dear to everyone in this room's heart. It is a collaboration between Michael's program and Rachel and my department. I think as many of you know, Teen Night has been a thing at Little Island since the very, very, very beginning. And it's a safe and brave space for local teens to gather. And we are starting a new workforce development program between our departments called that's basically dedicated to emerging producers. So we have put the extraordinary Queen Jean, who is the founder of the Black Trans Liberation Movement and also an unbelievable costume designer for film and stage. And she will be working with 4 really awesome young producers to make an evening in the amphitheater for teens, by teens, with some intergenerational guests, which will just be a total extravaganza. That will be entirely free in the amphitheater in August. After that, The amazing virtuoso mandolin player Chris Thiele is doing a new show for us called The Manhattan Variations, which is his quite personal story about the iconic Lower East Side bar Milk and Honey and the way that a dogged pursuit of beauty can really change the world in ways that you don't expect. And lastly, in September, we're doing a crazy take on The Marriage of Figaro, where Anthony Roth Costanzo, who is an extraordinary and unusual countertenor opera singer who's starring in Orfeo at the Met and formerly Akhenaten at the Met, will sing every leading role of The Marriage of Figaro in 90 minutes in a berserk new arrangement. And that will run for 3 weeks at the end of September. Other than the Summer Legacy Ball, which is free, the most expensive ticket in the amphitheater is $25. We will have rush tickets available every day for $15, and Rachel will talk more about what the community ticketing looks like, which is the same in years past. That's a very intentional free ticket for our community partners and neighborhood affiliates. So that's kind of the season in the amphitheater, and then we also have in the Glade, as has happened many times before, Wednesday through Sunday, entirely free programming. The only difference this year is that every week is programmed by a different artist. So we start off with Susan Laurie Parks, the amazing twice Pulitzer Prize winning and Tony Award winning playwright, who's hosting evenings of conversation and music. And then the legendary cabaret icon Justin Vivian Bond curating one week. In tandem with our Oyster Radio Hour, Robert Lavalva, who started the new Amsterdam market down on the Fulton Fish Market spot, is going to sort of curate a oyster market. So for that week, you can come before the show and get fresh oysters, freshly shucked. Following that, we have Morgan Jay, a wonderful comedian who's hosting an array of established and emerging comics. One that's very special for me is a week with the Endangered Language Alliance, who are a local organization based on 18th Street, started by this guy named Ross Perlin. That's really an extraordinary organization that documents and conserves endangered languages. And I'm just gonna stay on this one for 1 sec because it totally blew my mind. He wrote this book called Language City, and the week will be called Language City, that sort of essentially in the first page exploded my mind by saying that there are, just over 7,000 languages in the world, and over 4,000 of them are represented in our very own New York City, many of which are invisible to the census because they're held by so few people. So that week, folks who speak these languages will be telling stories in those languages and performing and having performances from that culture. The week after that is Cecile McLaurin-Salvant, who is a multiple Grammy Award-winning jazz vocalist and one of my favorite artists on the planet, who's hosting an extraordinary group of young jazz singers and instrumentalists. And we're closing it out with Gio Escobar and his band Standing on the Corner, which is a kind of genre-defying band of alternative music that is really totally special. So those folks will be there in July and August. And I think the whole idea here is just to, make it even more of a destination than it already is, to come and stay a little while, and in July and August to potentially see 2 performances. And, as I hope we never shut down the park when performances are happening. So even if you don't have a ticket, you can come and see just for a little bit or for however long you want, or just sit and have a snack while you're listening to this amazing live music. So that's the season in a nutshell. And I really, really hope that we'll see all of you frequently between June and September.
Thank you, Zach. My name is Rachel Lee. Hi, everyone. I have the pleasure of working with both Michael and Farida in the Education and Community Relations Department. Our department's job is to really make sure that we're delivering on our promise of engaging, educating, and employing local New Yorkers, many of whom are your constituents. And so I'm going to share a little bit more about what my team is up to this summer in conjunction with all of Zach's fantastic programming. So the first thing on the docket is our creative breaks. Creative breaks are 2-hour workshops every Wednesday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And it's really an opportunity for visitors, for families, for people of all ages to engage in an art-based activity in the park. On Wednesdays, we'll be doing something that's a little bit more environmental education focused with our Discover the Island series. On Thursday, we'll have music and dance. So if you like to play the drum, if you like to do a little Latin dance, chance, please come check us out on Thursdays. We'll be doing visual art every Friday featuring an incredible watercolor artist, Georgie Flores. And then every Saturday is Family Day. So every Saturday there will be some sort of event or presentation that's geared towards families and young children. And then, as Zach mentioned, Teen Night is a staple of Little Island. It has been a signature program of ours from the beginning. And really what Teen Night does is it honors the community who was at the park before there was a park. So really paying respect to the LGBTQ community who inhabited the space in the 80s and the 90s, and really giving young people, specifically young queer, Black, and brown people, the opportunity to reclaim the space, perform, and share their voice with the public. So every Friday night at 7 p.m. you can expect something for and by young people in the space. Some of our partners that we work with are listed here: The Door, Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club, Kiki House of Us, and City Lore. And as Zach mentioned, on Friday, August 9th, we will be having the Summer Legacy Ball curated by Queen Jean in collaboration with 4 incredible young and emerging producers. It's gonna be a really incredible evening. I'm joined on the call by my wonderful colleague, Farida, and Teen Night and Creative Break wouldn't be able to happen without her. And so I just wanted to give her an opportunity to introduce herself.
Thank you, Rachel. Hello, everybody. As Rachel said, my name is Farida. I'm the Community Programs Associate. So I put together all these public programming, and we want to connect the community with art, nature, and community. Come to the park between the Creative Breaks, Teen Night, and all those great shows this summer. I am your person. Feel free to email community@littleisland.org. And you all are connected to different organizations or know different organizations. Someone knows someone that probably needs to have access to these things, to art, just to be in the park. So I'm your person. I'm happy to welcome you to the park and help you have a field trip, or you all just come to a Creative Break. Wednesday to Saturday, 11 to 1, and a teen night and all the other stuff in the park. So thank you.
Thank you, Farida. And one thing that Farida also leads for us here at Little Island is our community ticketing program. So we want to make sure that our local community, folks who can walk to Little Island, folks who really feel like Little Island is their neighborhood park, have access to free tickets to our performances in the AMF. And so we distribute those through some of our local partner organizations. If you are connected to an organization, DYCD is one of our partners, and so it was really exciting to hear from them earlier on this call today. And so if you're connected to a local community organization whose constituents might benefit from some free tickets to Little Island this summer, please be in touch with us. You can email community@littleisland.org, and Farida will take your call from there. And last but not least, this is an ambitious summer. It's going to be a ton of fun, and we couldn't do the work that we do without an incredible staff. And so I just wanted to call out that there are some open roles right now within the organization if you or someone want to come work with us this summer. Specifically right now, we're hiring for our Summer Usher Corps program, which is a workforce development program for young people age 18 to 24. So if you have any young people in your life who love theater, love performance, and want to come and work with us this summer, receive some hands-on job training and some professional development while also seeing some of these shows while working, go ahead and check out the employment page of our website. The Usher Corps position and all of our open roles are available on our website.
I love my team. I'm really lucky, and I'm very excited about Zach's arrival. I want to highlight some things before you dive into questions. I bet you have many. I just want to tell you, my first year at Little Island was in 2018, and I asked them, how long it was going to be. The gardeners asked the head of horticulture. He told me 3 years. And you won't know what's going on with the gardens for 3 years. And I feel the same with the organization. I feel like we're hitting our stride now and sharpening our blades in terms of the change, the impact we're trying to make. So I really want to highlight the workforce development opportunities, make sure that you know that we're hiring people back, and we're putting people going from interns to leadership positions within the company. And that's what we do. That's part of why I'm here. And then all those other public programs, absolutely, you're invited to those, and you please tell everybody to come to those because they're built for people like me. It's like Looney Tunes. it's everything for everybody. If you come into one of those spots, there's something for you. It doesn't matter how old you are or how bitter you are. We'll make you smile to give you at least give you a rest. And then the idea of like where we are with community ticketing, $25 is the lowest ticket we've had. And we're still giving away more free tickets than anybody. It's exhausting how many free tickets we have to give away. So we need your help for all of these things. And we hope you take us seriously on that. You absolutely shouldn't miss any of these shows, and we don't want anybody in your life to miss them. So now we're open for questions or comments or any advice you can give us. And I expect to see you on Little Island this year after this. I'm going to shut up.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you, Zach, Rachel, Farida, Cameron. Thank you all so much for your work. And yes, that is an ambitious summer schedule, but it does seem like a lot of fun. And look forward to getting down there and seeing some of the events over the next few months. So yeah, we'll open it up to some questions. David?
Yeah, exactly. I'm excited to see Robeson. I'm disappointed it's only gonna be 3 days, like the heart of the gay pride nights and all that, so I'm gonna have to figure that out. But is the Robeson, are they gonna go into the politics that you mentioned, the Moscow hotel room? So I mean, is that what he's saying, Kaddish to as a protest to Stalin over the doctors' plots, things like that?
Yeah, it's taking on a lot of different moments, including when he was living in exile, essentially in Moscow and trying to figure out how to come home. It also starts in his 1957 Carnegie Hall recital and goes between many, many, many different places in kind of charting his life and activism. But there are also moments in the show that are direct transcriptions of, his incredible speeches while in Moscow and elsewhere in Buenos Aires and Canada and America, as well as, really kind of intense and amazing to hear transcripts of his House Un-American congressional hearings.
Yeah, I have a question. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to that excellent rundown. And I think Michael hit it on the head when he said that you guys are hitting your stride. I mean, all the work is so intentional and so thoughtful. And so thank you so much for that, and including all communities. I do have a question about the workforce development. Specifically, I wanted to know for the teens, are you all part of the Summer Youth Employment Program? If not, are you working directly with any schools I'm going
to let Rachel answer most of that question about how we're working in Farida, but I'll tell you why we're not a member of the Summer Youth Employment Program. We like to go our own way. And so what I do, and the practice that I do, is study the Summer Youth Employment Program or any available outside program that has reporting requirements, and try to make sure that internally we meet or exceed that experience for the young people that we have. So if we did, and I've participated as an organizational leader in the Summer Youth Employment Program at other places. It wouldn't work for us here because of our schedule and the way they lay it out. But I have looked at the way they are taking care of young people, and I can guarantee that the experience that the young people have here is meets that or exceeds it in all categories. So that's how we approach things that have reporting requirements. Since we don't have to, we don't. But Rachel will tell you what we do have available and what we can stand over.
Yes, thank you, Michael. So something that's really important to us in workforce development, even though we're not working with an agency or an organization like Summer Youth Employment, is that we are prioritizing hiring local New Yorkers. So we have a really strong relationship with CUNY. A large majority of our summer ushers, our fellows, our emerging producers are from our CUNY networks. And we also really prioritize hiring through our other partners. Our emerging producers, all of them come from other workforce development programs. Places like The Door, places like City Lore, places like the High Line. And so we really want to make sure that we're prioritizing folks within the local community. We also share our opportunities with the West Side Workforce Coalition and all of our various neighborhood partners. A little icing on the cake for all of our workforce development programs is that all of our young people get monthly Metro cards when they come and work with us at Little Island this summer. So that's a really nice added bonus.
Our pay scale is better.
I'm sure. Did anyone else in the room have questions before we go? I know Leslie online has one. Oh, Leslie?
Hi, it's always great to see Michael. He always like fills the room with energy and everyone loves it. you know that, Michael. I remember asking this question when Little Island was first opened, and I just want to know if there was any progress. I think we asked at this committee maybe about a continuing or developing relationship with local schools, not just like a one-off of like, okay, here and come and see this, or here, come and see this art program, but like maybe just example, PS 33 in Chelsea, something like once a month they would come and learn about this, and it would be something that they could really sink their teeth into. I don't know, that might have been done. I know we asked, and I think you guys said, let's get our feet under us. Let's kind of get moving.
We had in-school residencies before COVID. COVID ended that, and then we changed our approach because of COVID. So we no longer have teaching artists going out to sites. We're inviting people to create work and bring it to the island. That said, the school system's calendar does not align with our high season, so that presents us with some difficulty. However, Farida Laquan and Rachel Lee are all over it. I would say we have very strong relationships with local schools that we can walk to, and I'll let them describe what we're doing this year.
Yeah, so we often host our local neighborhood schools for field trips. We just recently did a big Arbor Day, creative break and activation that we invited some of our local schools to. And this year we're hosting two of our local neighborhood elementary schools, PS 33 and PS 340, for end of school celebrations. So Farida's curating an amazing afternoon where they're going to come. They're going to decorate their graduation caps, and really celebrate the end of fifth grade. And so like Michael mentioned, it is very unique. As someone who's personally worked in a lot of other education settings, we sort of have a reverse schedule where the large majority of our programming happens when school isn't in session. But something that Farida does a really fantastic job of is making sure these students and their parents know about all of the activities that are happening at Little Island over the summer, so they can really enjoy the space even when school isn't in session.
Farida, are there can you give us 3 names of friends that we have that people might know? A parent, an administrator, and anybody else?
Yeah. Well, at PS 33, there's Nalini Chugani. There's of course the principal with Cindy Wang, and then vice principal Danielle Remsen, who's probably had her baby.
I hope so.
Yes, I checked in on her. She wasn't due yet, but yeah. And then at PS 340, Pat is a darling. I've had the pleasure of going there and meeting her. So Pat Carney, who's the principal, and Kate Vignola. So we have a lot of friends, and as Michael said, our schedule don't align yet, but we also don't want to rush into doing something that's not substantial. As you guys had noticed, we're very intentional about our work, so we don't want to do a one-off. So we're maintaining our contact, at least since school is up until June. So they have some time to come to the island and experience, some of our creative breaks. Plus that picnic celebration, I'm really looking forward to hosting them. We're looking forward to it. They are looking forward to it. We have a walkthrough tomorrow and Wednesday with them. So there are different ways they can engage, and our community ticketing extends to the families of these schools. So Han, who is very well known also at PS 33, is that CFA parent that does the community ticketing for us. So we stay connected at different level in different spheres.
Thank you. That's great, because I know the one-offs are not easy, but there's an event here, event there. I know I'm a former, very short-lived PS 33 parent. But what, as you guys might know, so much in school is concentrated on core math, core, a lot of like environmental studies aren't really gotten, art study, is maybe lacking at those, maybe thought that environment or some sort of water education might be a good fit for some of these schools, but I'm sure you guys are thinking of that. But if you could think of that on a more consistent basis, I think it would be a super resource. I mean, you guys are already a great resource, but a super resource for them. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one more question in the room.
My question was, you mentioned Farida, you mentioned PS 33, and what was the other school?
340.
And PS 340.
6th Avenue Elementary School.
Avenue Elementary School and Chelsea Prep.
It's like 17 to 6.
I don't know that school.
It's right on our.
Not really.
It's not, yeah, it's like gonna be in the, it might be actually, because it's further
It's
south.
close, is it close to?
16th and 6th.
It's like
around
15 to
17
6.
Yeah,
Is it close
it's
to
right on the
Quincy?
border. It's right on the
Yes.
It's close to.
It's not in our, it's not in our district, but it's in our,
Right outside.
Two.
It's right outside, across the street.
Literally
Yeah,
across the street.
Oh,
I
so the
say
reason
our,
why-
our future revolves around the Arbor Day experiment, which you may or may not have seen, but it will come back. It's going to be repeated because it was a successful pattern. Is the first time that our gardeners have been involved in interacting, teaching and learning with the community. And we intend to move into that space a little more intentionally. It has been 3 years because the gardeners had other priorities. But that's what we're noodling on, and that's the space in which we think we can be useful, which is helping people enjoy nature in the same way that those professional enjoyers of nature have turned me on to bird watching, understanding what the cycle of the trees, all that kind of stuff is what we're doing. We don't have a science lab or a center, but what we do offer is experience. So that's what we're going to be leaning into.
I didn't get to finish asking my question. Actually, it wasn't related to that. It was actually related to the schools, just out of curiosity. I don't know how you collaborate with schools, but I know that I'm kind of curious about like how many students of color or lower socioeconomic status come to the programming at the school that you collaborate with, because Pier 33 is very different than when I went. In the 80s, it looks very different. I attended Clinton, and it looks very different from when I attended. So I'm kind of curious about students that look like me or were like me when I was
I'm gonna be
little.
very specific about this with you. I like to cut to the chase. Gail Brewer is one of my very close pals when Black and brown students are on the island.
No, I didn't finish, because I was saying, what I wanted to finish saying was that I think Little Island is a wonderful resource. I've been there and it's absolutely beautiful. And like, for me, having the opportunity to go there when I was little, so that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little. So, when we partner with the schools, we don't go that far into demographics. It's neighborhood schools, okay? So that's one way. But there are other spheres where when we say teen night, it centers a very specific community, but still is open to all. So we live in intersections. We want to serve the community, and the community is very diverse. We had those controversies. Some are better off financially than others. When we're serving the neighborhood, we're serving everyone in the neighborhood. So it goes from Hudson Guild to a PS 33 that looks different, to PS 11, PS 340, to Broome Street Academy, but to West Bath. So it's really like a wide range, and we make sure that our team and Little Island in general, we make sure that people feel welcome. So the point is, it's not just about inviting in the space, but once the little girl that looks like me, that is in between, that looks like Rachel, and see that colorful range of everything that we see here, can come to the space and feel like they belong. That's where we make our mark. Because it's one thing, you can be in the space and still not feel like you belong. But we make our mark in making sure that they feel like they belong. Of course, it's a process. Of course it is. But you've seen the lineup for the amphitheater. You've seen who's highlighted. It's very colorful. You've seen the lineup, and you've seen Cecile McLaurin Salva next to next to Morgan J, so there's a lot of colors that we welcome on the island, and we try our best to make sure that is reflected. And I'm gonna put another point is like accessibility. So we try our best. We will probably not ever fully succeed, but we welcome your feedback, your input, to make sure that if there's an organization that you're connected to that we may not know about, or that we're not centering yet, just for whatever reason, because there's 25 other logistic reasons that are happening. But if you know someone, that's where I am here, Michael is here, and our team is here, is to make sure that the community knows that they are welcome, and that we want to make sure that when they are in that space, they feel like they belong. It is a neighborhood park.
I love that. Thank you. 2 things real quick. Would it be weird? Would it be odd if I showed up for like teen night just to check it out?
No, not at all. Please come. Let me know when you're coming. Well, 2 things. If you want to just come and spy on us, fine. Yeah. But if you want to come, and I mean, that's what we do. It's hospitality. I want to make sure you're coming and that you're all set, and I can offer you 50% off, have something to eat and things like that. So no, please come. Again, we center teen.
I would join my teen son. Yeah. So
there you go. There you go. So you're using it the right way, please. And tell another mom or caregiver or dad, whatever it may be, to come with you.
It's for
And
teens
have
and
you-
teens at heart.
What?
I said it's for teens and teens at heart. I'm the at heart part.
Okay. And what about, have you collaborated with Trans Latinx Network?
No, I am
Yeah,
I'm
I'll
not
definitely look
familiar
into
with it, but
I was gonna say not yet, but I'll definitely explore and learn more about them. If you have a contact that you'd like to connect us to there, we'd be happy to take it.
exactly.
Yeah,
And
I
by the
do.
way,
I guess I can email, who would I email? Jesse.
Let me
Ah.
know who to email.
I was gonna get the phone share. Alright.
but
Yes,
sometimes I just want to
I'll send it.
highlight that sometimes we can have a direct partnership where people perform in the space or do things like that, but the partnership looks different at different levels. Sometimes it's a supporter, it's a friend, it's just being in the space and knowing that that space exists and enjoying that space for what it is. So maybe Trans Latinx, we cannot, it's not a partnership where it's the door performing at teen night. However, it's that invitation to teen night.
Oh, I see.
That
That's
invitation is
that's
the community ticketing. It's knowing that they can come with a group and see a show in the amphitheater.
Oh, excellent. And I think they're in the community. I can't recall where exactly, but, all right, I'll send it off with, in an email.
Great.
Thank you for Rita and Michael and Rachel.
Yeah, thank you all so much. And just one last thing, you mentioned that you have this job opportunity for summer ushers. I know very often we circulate job postings in the community through Jesse Bodine. So if you have like a specific, I don't know, like one pager on it, or if it's on your website and we can grab it, we would be happy to help circulate that to the network that we have, along with the performance schedule. If there's sort of a way to share that easily through email, we would be happy to do that. But definitely the job posting, you want to make sure that the word gets out about that.
We will send a follow-up through Cameron, since that's how we've been doing logistics, to Jesse and make sure that everything is shared. Very grateful for all these questions. Thanks for that sharp question at the end. I learned something. Thank you, Rita. If there's nothing else, I'm gonna let Zach sew us up, because he may have had some thoughts before we go, and we'll sail off into the night.
No, I'll just say again, I feel really privileged to be doing this work in this place. I also live in the neighborhood, and I really, really hope to meet all of you in person. And please just stay in touch, as Farida and Rachel and Michael and Cam all know very well. We're like really dedicated to making people feel welcome, and yes, come anytime, but also please let us know when you're coming, because it would be great to actually connect. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Good.
All right, so the second to last item on our agenda is a presentation from the United Nations Foundation. Troy, thank you so much for hanging tight throughout the previous presenters, and we appreciate you being here with us this evening and learning more about the work that you all do.
Perfect. If you can give me host rights, I'm going to do a screen share and go into a presentation. Just it's easier to walk you through what we do.
You can go ahead and share it, Troy. You're allowed to share the screen. There you go.
Perfect. All right. So first off, thanks everybody. So I'm Troy Wolf. I'm Senior Director of Partnerships and Special Initiatives at the United Nations Foundation. I specifically work for a program that falls under the acronym of the United Nations Association of the United States of America. It's a paragraph. For short, it's UNAUSA, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that this evening. But I think just a little bit more about me. I've been with the foundation for 13 years. I've worn many different hats. We have 2 locations. Our headquarters is in Washington, D.C. I work at the office in New York City. We occupy the 3rd floor of the Ford Foundation, which is right around the corner from the United Nations itself. This slide is here just to let you know that all of my work, I approach it through the lens of being a servant leader. I am of service to other folks, as many of you on the call tonight are. So please kind of listen to what I share in that context. So I'm going to give a little bit of background about our organizations, talk about our key initiatives, the UNAUSA Fellowship Initiative, which we launched last year, and then engage you in a brief open dialogue about our work. So again, we are the United Nations Association of the United States of America. We are an intergenerational organization of more than 20,000 members across the United States. We have chapters both on college campuses as well as in community. 60%, actually more than 60%, that's an old number, probably 65, 70% of our membership base is under the age of 26. Membership is free for anyone under the age of 25. And so you see here over to the right, little map of our footprint across the United States. We do not have the strong presence that we would like to have in the middle of the country. So if you have touch points with people that live in those states, please feel free to send me a little email. If you have cousins and families, we would love to increase our footprint in the middle of the country, perhaps where it's most needed. Just on the distinctions of our organizations, I often share with folks that I work for the UN Foundation. They never hear the foundation part. So just some distinctions. The UN Foundation was, I'm sorry, the United Nations was created in 1945 to prevent World War III. So far that has, they've done their work in that space. The United Nations Foundation was created 26 years ago by media mogul Ted Turner. When he was upset that the United States had not paid their dues to the UN, all member states must pay dues. He attempted to go to the UN with a checkbook in hand and write a check for $1 billion. You can imagine the next day in the newspaper, it would have read, media mogul tries to bribe the United Nations. So they did not take his money. He said, fine. Story goes, he went down to Washington, D.C., caucused with some of his influential friends on the Hill, congressmen, congresswomen, and they created the UN Foundation to support and amplify the good work of the UN. And I say the good work of the UN because usually when we hear about the United Nations in the media, first of all, it's something that is beyond their control, but they're constantly the one that takes the blame against these issues. Likewise, the United Nations Association of the United States of America was started more than 80 years ago by former First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt, when she set out to go across the country and engage young people in calls to advocate for the world that they want. That is still core to our DNA. As I said earlier, we're a membership organization, and we mobilize our members around supporting the ideals and principles of the United Nations with a great deal of focus on something called the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. We are part of an international body that falls under the acronym of WFUNA, which stands for the World Federation of UNAs. So there are these UNAs all over the world. Some are part of or appendages of a government. We are not. We're a 501c3, and they all operate differently, but they all try to support the work of the United Nations. So just a little bit, I hope the sound comes up on this. This is the beautiful framework that in 2015, 193 countries signed on board to achieve these global goals by the year 2030. They are about to expire now, and we are concerned because if we're not in alignment to meet them before COVID, we're certainly not in alignment to meet them now, but we still try. But let me just share this video with you.
We don't.
Sorry. Troy, we don't hear audio if there's supposed to be any with the video.
What's that?
There's no audio with the video on our end. I don't know if it's on our end or if there's something on your end.
Okay.
It might be on our end just because you're playing it off of the shared screen.
It's not a lot of talk, so I think that the things that they're repeating, the important parts are being highlighted, like the fight to end poverty and inequality. So I'm just going to go ahead and let it finish playing.
Okay.
Perfect. So that's just an open invitation, making the world aware of the Sustainable Development Goals. So this here, the SDGs is a profile that each state in the United States, we have mapped the SDGs. And so I want to share with you where we are in New York City. And as a conversation started, when you think about some of the issues that we were speaking about on the call, access to education, gender equality, climate change, sustainable cities, all of these things, the statistics that are available in the SDG index lets us know that the state of New York ranks 11 out of 50. Again, this was done in 2021. I'd be curious to know what the data shows now. Anytime you see an arrow that's going to the right, it means that things have stalled. We want to see green arrows going up. We don't see any green arrows going up. One of the greatest areas of challenge would be reduced inequalities, industry innovation and infrastructure. This framework really can allow folks to begin to look at issues within their own states and have conversations about programs and projects and ideals, ways to address these issues in a local context. Here in New York City, we have what's called the Southern New York State Division of UNAUSA. So we have a presence in each of the 5 boroughs. All of the chapters in Manhattan fall under what we call the Southern New York State Division. So the Southern New York State Division includes Upper Mohawk Valley, it includes Westchester, it includes Northern New Jersey. And so we rally our members around a variety of activities. So on an annual basis, we have 3 marquee moments, as we call them. We have the Engagement Summit, the Global Engagement Summit, which takes place at the United Nations itself, usually in February. It's an opportunity for our members to come to the General Assembly Hall and learn firsthand about the priorities of the UN in any calendar year. We are frequently grateful that the Secretary General himself, one day we will say herself, but we're grateful that the Secretary General himself comes and greets the group along with other high-level individuals, including the spokesperson for the Secretary General, Steph Jejurek. Another marquee moment for us is the Leadership Summit, which takes place in Washington, D.C. It is a 3-day event. The first day, we focus on what it means to be an advocate for the United Nations and why it's important. The second day, we really unpack, what is the significance of the relationship on Capitol Hill and what goes on the United Nations. And then the third day, which you see this picture here, we wear our blue T-shirts and we stomp on Capitol Hill and we ask for many things, but true to the reason that the UN Foundation was created, we request full funding for the United Nations. And so that picture here is us doing just that. The other marquee moment is every year we come together on October 24th and we pause to recognize the founding of the UN itself on October 24th. From the national office, we do in-person and virtual programming, and we also encourage our chapters to raise awareness again about the work of the United Nations and the significance of it in the century that we live. So we have speaker panels, we do advocacy meetings, we have advocacy petitions. The beauty of our framework is if someone comes up with an idea that is in alignment with the United Nations, we are able to execute it. The UN2, this is a URL here, they have a whole array of days that they recognize. One of my favorite days is the International Day of the Toilet. And usually when I bring that up to little people, there's a giggle in the room until you begin to unpack what that means. Access to clean water, sanitation. You go from something that might be a little uncomfortable and awkward when you bring it up to having a very substantive and deep conversation about one of the major issues of our time. This here, for youth, we're a membership organization. We encourage youth to join and become active. We provide career panels and professional development workshops for folks. I say to young people, and I say to all people in this day and time, you get access to opportunities based on the networks that you have. So we encourage folks to join UNAUSA, become active, demonstrate excellence, and perhaps create your next opportunity. The picture here, every year we open up a competition. We put out a nationwide search for what we call the Youth Observer to the United Nations. This is OSE. OSE is our current Youth Observer, but we pluck a young person from their academic career. We thrust them on the international stage. They meet with the Secretary General. They meet with Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield. They meet with other global leaders, and they represent the youth voice for a period of 1 year. So this is OSE, our current Youth Observer. When we think about resources, a lot of this call, I've heard folks speak about education programs. Some years back, UNAUSA, we used to operate our own Model UN program. Model UN is the best experiential learning activity that I've ever seen. I was not aware of it growing up, but I'm aware of it now. Some years back, we got funding from the State Department to do what we call democratize Model UN. And so what you see here, we're promoting, it's a free app for download. It comes with a facilitator guide, so no one has to have expertise in how to administer Model UN. It tells you how to lay out your classroom, how long the activity takes. But we've got a couple of modules on there. The most recent one is the peaceful use of outer space. That is the first bilingual module that we have. One of my favorite is the zombie pandemic. Think about what we just lived through with COVID and think about how different, these are diseases that cross borders, and for to engage middle schoolers and high school students in conversations about this, where they have a placard and they're not representing their own views, they're representing the views and perspective of a nation that they represent. They can grow and really begin to understand how difficult and necessary diplomacy is. It's the best skill building activity out there, and it's a free resource. As I mentioned earlier, UNA USA, we used to operate Model UN in New York City. The Southern New York State Division is bringing this program back in 2025. This will be a collaboration with the Model UN program in Izmir, Turkey. I've been there twice. We will be launching this program sometime during the school year of 2025 for middle and high school students. For young people who you're working with, this is another free resource. I spoke earlier about the Sustainable Development Goals, but the interview platform is a free platform where young people can volunteer and they can track how their volunteer contributions align with the SDGs, and they can print it out. So for instance, young people, high school students, they're graduating, they're going for jobs. Your colleague on here earlier spoke about that they're hiring. Everyone needs a resume, but how great would it be if you have a resume and then you have a companion document which speaks to the hours that you clocked in to address climate change issues in New York, or to address poverty in New York. It gives you another profile and presents you as a well-rounded person. I encourage you to explore the resource interview as a platform. The United Nations is right here in New York City, but you would be surprised of how many people never go there for various reasons. So during COVID times, the United Nations really perfected their virtual tours. I have had groups in the middle of the country do virtual tours. They do tours on Black history. They can do a curated tour on the contributions that women have made. You come up with an idea, if it is within their abilities and scope, they can customize a virtual tour for you. So we have the opportunity to bring the United Nations to your students and your community. There is a fee associated with that, but it's still a fantastic thing to do. One of the things that I'm most happy about is that in 2023, we launched what's called the UNA USA Fellowship Initiative. This is an opportunity for us to make sure that all Americans, and particularly those from underrepresented groups, as we call them, underrepresented groups, the LGBTQ community, the Black and Brown community, the tribal colleges and universities, Hispanic serving institutes, historically Black colleges and universities. We've been doing tremendous outreach to these schools, letting them know about the Fellowship Initiative, which is a stipend-based program where we will provide up to $3,000 a month for 4 months. So that's up to $12,000 to cover the living expenses of these young people who pursue internships. We just kicked this off last year. The goal last year was to onboard between 10 and 15. We onboarded 13. The goal this year is to onboard 30. I already have 14, so I've almost already met half my objective. But this is a fantastic opportunity for us to diversify the pipeline of students who may have never imagined that they could have a career with a UN or a UN agency. And this is just a flyer that we created last year to try to break it down, because it can be a daunting process to apply for a UN internship. So we've tried to make it easy. What role does advocacy play in your life and career? And just would love to take any questions that you have about UNA USA. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. Really appreciate the presentation. So a few months ago, our committee had a discussion about how, organizations that we would like to learn more about, different partnerships that we could strengthen between youth organizations and our public schools, just learning more about the work overall. And the UN came up as one of those organizations. So we're really grateful for you being here this evening so we can build a relationship and sort of start a conversation between our community board and the United Nations Foundation. So with that said, I'm gonna turn it over to some questions. Let me start with Josephine, and then David, I'll come to you.
Hi, how are you? And welcome.
Hello.
Thank you so much for this presentation. My question for you is, we're located in the Midtown West area, and we have many hotels here that are being used as shelters for the asylum migrants. And so I'm wondering, does the UN have any programs or resources that are geared toward or address this issue?
So I'm gonna, when you say the UN Foundation is what you mean, right?
Foundation, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
that-
So the
correct.
UN Foundation, we have many different campaigns. Like we look at UNA USA as a membership organization, and we're the advocacy arm. But we define ourselves as one of the many campaigns at the United Nations Foundation. We do not have a program per se that addresses that. But I think when we think about that, access to housing, perhaps as a human right, when we think about the issues that we see in our streets, it is our challenge to figure out where within the UN system, how does the UN speak about homelessness, right? And so at the foundation, there is no program specifically that addresses that, but that is a topic that for me and for us would fall under human rights. And I'll give you just another example, which is somewhat related to that. So there's some chapters in the middle of the country, Milwaukee, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, Utah, and Wyoming. Some years back, we developed something called Project Rocky Mountain Region. And that whole initiative started at looking at the most vulnerable, because Sustainable Development Goals are about addressing the needs of the most vulnerable. And as we started having conversations, this was around COVID time as well. As we started having conversations, we realized that there were huge segments of the population in the middle of the country, particularly our indigenous brothers and sisters, who did not have access to technology. And so, we're all going online and seeing Dr. Google about what we do and cross-checking things that we're hearing about COVID. This whole community out there was disenfranchised. So what we were able to do was we began a campaign to reach these communities. About two years in, we were invited by the Biden-Harris administration to be part of something called the Affordable Connectivity Program, where we were able to sign people up for free vouchers so they could get a $75 subsidy to cover their broadband technology. And I raise that to say that, when we make observations, just like you just made the observation about the hotels and the homeless issue and displaced people and how they came to be there, nobody wants to be there. To me, that does fall under human rights and dignity. And so the question is, okay, well, what could we do about it? We continue to have conversations about it and figure out, okay, can this be a program? Can this be a campaign? Can we effect some changes in policy? What is it that perhaps your community board has the capacity to do, and the foundation, UNA USA, and our chapter structure could potentially help you do that?
Okay, thank you.
David?
Thank you for coming. You come highly recommended from Ann Nichols.
I come what? Could you say that again?
Nichols. Ann Nichols.
And Nichols, yes.
She runs a great worldview program. My questions, Josephine, I want to follow up a little bit with Josephine's question dealing with affordability, because maybe we can work on getting these students who are living in the hotels or transients, maybe we can give them tours, give them education on the United Nations, and you spoke about the virtual, the My Diplomat, the phone, things like that, give them accessibility to that. That's a stepping stone, and to go into, obviously, also local schools, like have the students be educated on, maybe the foundation, educate the local schools, whether it's elementary, middle school, or high school, on what the United Nations does, and possibly not only virtual tours, but actual tours of the UN. Maybe have something from the foundation speak to them, let them know what's going on. My generation was close enough to, I wasn't around when Eleanor Roosevelt, but it was close enough to when Eleanor Roosevelt was around, when we were taught at the UN, we went around with the orange boxes, the UNICEF, and things like that. I don't believe these students are. And also, I didn't catch everything you said about the model UN, but in my day, the model UN was they would physically have the little United Nations segment. So I was wondering if there's any schools in New York that are doing that. Maybe some of the schools in our district could piggyback on it, because to organize something from scratch, I think would be very difficult for a school. But if several schools combined, or we piggyback, so we have schools like Avenues, which is a very hoity-toity school, and we have regular inner city high schools here. So we have, maybe we could work with that, like a model UN. I don't know how that could work, but I think all this can tie into our district in terms of not only educating people, but getting the students involved. And that was my reason for suggesting the United Nations and trying to do this, to work with PTA educators and, like, for example, maybe on our community board, we can advertise internships for our local students here.
Perfect. So you said a couple things that I'd like to respond to. So Model UN, first of all, is the United Nations Foundation. We're not the gatekeepers of Model UN, and I know you weren't saying that, but I think it's just clear to say that anybody, we could decide right now that we wanted to do a Model UN program. We hang up our shingle, and next thing you know, tomorrow we're doing registration. So there's no one authorizes anybody to do Model UN is one thing. UNA USA, we used to do our own Model UN program where we had $1 million a year that came in from Merrill Lynch. We were in 10 US cities, the largest school districts in the nation, and 5 international cities. It was a phenomenal program. We had programming for both middle, and then we did 2 international conferences in New York City, attracting like up to 2,000 kids from 23 countries. The Southern New York State Division in 2024 is what I was referencing early, and in 2025, will bring back a Model UN program and broadcast it to all schools in New York City, is one. We currently, however, and this is the 9th year, the mayor has a program called the New York City Junior Ambassadors Program. This is a competition-based program that every year for the past 9 years is opened up. It started only with middle school kids. 2 years ago, they invited high school kids to come. They select about 22 schools on an annual basis. The teachers write out a proposal of what they're going to do, the contact hours, where it's going to take place, what the project is going to focus on, et cetera. The applications come back to the mayor's office as one of the core partners, UNF, me, Department of Education, Department of Recs, and the UN. We vet the applications, we rank them, and they narrow it down to the 20 or 22 schools that are going to participate every calendar year. So that there is a model that exists, and I would imagine that some schools within your area perhaps participate in that competition. The other thing, the UN, they can send speakers to your school. They can send the U.S. mission to the United Nations can send diplomats and residents to your school. They're happy to send speakers to your school. You mentioned the PTA. I can't speak for the Southern New York State Division, but UNA USA would love to have a table at one of your PTA meetings, perhaps for UN Day, we could collaborate with a school for UN Day, a school that doesn't know much about the United Nations, and have a table there and pass out information or flyers on UN Day or on any of the other days that the United Nations recognizes. We would welcome young people activating that free membership. This could be for middle schoolers. This could be for high schoolers. Parents can join the organization as well. And then the My Diplomat app is perhaps the best way, I would think, to introduce introduce the United Nations at the school level. As I said earlier, it comes with a facilitator guide. You don't have to know anything about Model UN. You don't even have to know anything about the topic, because on the back of the placards give you talking points for how your country feels about whatever issue we're discussing. And the idea really here is not to have students be experts in the subject matter. The idea here is to build their skills, public speaking skills, critical thinking skills, cross-cultural understanding skills. It's one thing when you're representing your own views, it's quite another thing when you're representing a nation. And the skills building aspect of Model UN are just, they're phenomenal. They create college and career ready individuals. And if your students and teachers are not familiar with it, the My Diplomat app is a fantastic way to kind of begin to introduce that.
That's great. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I hope to keep us on the email list for the Model UN stuff. So
Absolutely, for sure.
Great. Any other questions?
No, I think that was it. I was interested about modeling them. Great.
Leslie, good? Okay. Troy, thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming again and just knowing about United Nations Foundation, having you as a resource knowing that you can send speakers to schools, tabling at the UN Day, which I think is in October, is a great idea. So we look forward to continuing the conversation and yeah, just building on a relationship between our community board district and the United Nations.
Perfect. Well, thanks for having me. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Right.
Yes, fantastic. That's fine.
So that was our last presentation for the evening. The last thing is just any old or new business that any community members would like to bring up.
Well, I do want to talk about the budget cuts to the library. And if we should, like last year, literally in May, we wrote a letter about the same thing. And I don't know if the mayor's just waiting to the last minute and is gonna change his mind. Is it worth doing another letter? Because it would basically say the exact same things it said last year. Or maybe Leslie, I know Leslie has parks coming on, maybe we can bogart your letter and just do something about, because he's, you know, basically on the chopping block are budget cuts to the library and parks. So maybe that's a way of doing it instead of us just doing our own letter because, you know, we didn't have time to have a speaker. It was kind of rushed and basically we say the same thing anyway, but it is a great resource, right? We just have the bedtime stories for kids, computers for, you know, where else are people gonna use the computers? They need computers. They have translation services for asylum seekers, so it is important. And I don't want to not say anything and then have the budget you cut them, we didn't say anything at all, so. Opening that up and seeing what your thoughts are.
Yes.
I will say, I don't think you need to worry about streakers. I think if you all feel consistent with this from last year's, and we obviously advocated for libraries in the past, so as long as someone's willing to write the letter,
Sure.
you know, I mean, again, it might not be much different from last
Right,
year,
it's
but
not.
at least we could probably add some, a little bit of detail about the Columbus branch and things like that, and, you know, obviously, we know the folks, our newest guests and all the hotels are probably using our services and so, yeah. So I think if you guys feel that consistent, and yeah, strong value, you can vote on it.
So we try to
What?
I can make a
That
motion.
was fast, yes.
I'm trying
Of course,
wait,
yes,
can I-
Katie, go ahead.
Okay, I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
So it's May right now. I mean, would it be too late? Like, could we
No.
ask somebody from the
No,
library to come?
we are getting it out the first week of June. I mean, it's not, it'll be tight, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But, you know, this better.
Yeah, I
When's the handshake?
Yeah, and even after the budget's adopted, things always change. I think it's more important to be on the record. It's better,
Yeah.
and we're still within the time frame. I think it's good to be consistent and to do a letter, so we're just not doing that.
So we send it to the council member?
We should just look at the letter we did last year. I don't remember who we addressed it to, but we should just read out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how much we could write a letter now, it sounds like you're saying, like but could we also invite somebody to come talk to us at our June
Sure.
meeting so we can actually find out more details, like
Oh, yeah, sure.
what has happened with the club, you know? like-
Columbus Light, yeah, we wanted to get somebody from that branch, because the last time we had a person more general, but. it would be
Yeah.
nice to have some-
I mean, when we had someone from the branch come, I try to remember when that was.
We can,
But
I
it
think
is-
that's good about it, she made a motion, so.
Okay,
I
yeah.
think we're all talking, can someone second that motion?
I second the motion.
Okay,
Thanks.
sorry.
No,
Oh, Jesse.
Holden.
We have to vote. Are we voting?
You're voting.
Yeah,
all in favor?
thank you.
Okay.
We're voting.
I want to make sense, Jeff, that we also send the CC Robin Frost from, because she always shows up to our,
Very good about
Yeah,
this.
sure.
he always shows up to our community board meeting. And I think she would short circuit it to the mayor.
That's a good idea.
So you said someone from Columbus branch had come to our meeting?
Someone came,
Yeah, they-
they came and we talked about sort of the roof and the repair, the capital budget that they needed
Oh,
to
yeah.
repair the roof. None of that, there wouldn't be an update on that yet, because the budget would be in this upcoming fiscal year.
Okay.
But, so we could invite them, but they're gonna say, we don't know until the budget's adopted in
But
July.
they could tell us like about who's using their services.
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah, and like programming and things that they're doing.
It's actually more beneficial for the programming question than the capital question.
Yeah.
Because we're not gonna know the capital until after.
If we were still advocating,
Yeah.
if we were still advocating, we'd invite someone from the library union. But the librarians union, we still advocate. At this point, we want information, is what you're saying?
But they can give us information about programming, what their needs are. They're just not gonna be able to give us any concrete information about what's in the budget.
No, I'm just saying, it's not, this letter, by the time they come, will be finished advocating.
Yeah. Yeah. we would have-
Right, so we would, if it was prior, let's say it was hypothetically, if it was this month,
Yeah,
May, we'd have someone from the union to help us advocate. The librarians,
for what we talk.
the librarians, it's not covering the budgets.
Right.
But that ship sailed, I guess.
Well, we're doing, but we're sending the letter.
Right, yeah, yeah.
So what we're advocating. We're still on record, gonna be on record.
We'll be on record and we're gonna get more information.
Yeah.
And yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, would it be worth it to, maybe send a list of questions to Columbus so we could add a little more
That's
detail
fine.
to the letter?
Yeah.
Can we do that? Do you want to give me some questions that you have? I mean, I'm curious about who's using it too, like, they're actually, 'cause that would be very helpful to know, but it's,
But this is for them coming in June.
well, it's for them coming in June, but could I give a little more texture to this letter about, I mean, I could just do.
May I make a suggestion? I'm sorry. May I make a suggestion? I don't think we need to vote on this. I think it could be an administrative letter because we're on record already of this, and we did the same thing at WPE. We did administrative letter. I think we just did one last month on DeWitt Clinton, just reiterating. But if you look up, I mean, this year, this budget cycle, the New York Public Libraries are making a very, very big push for this. And they list exactly what exactly is getting cut or is supposedly could affect cuts, who to write the letters to. I mean, they have a whole kind of, I guess, laundry list and list of maybe who it could be addressed to. I don't know if that would help, but I think it would help. But again, we don't have to wait. This letter can go out literally, I mean, of course, with writing it tomorrow. Only because if it's administrative, it could. And it's nothing that we haven't done, I think, or supported before.
How many libraries are in our district? Two.
One's closed right now.
Oh, which one, Muhlenberg?
Yeah.
It's close to renovations.
Right.
Well, it's up to you guys. I mean, you voted on it, so it's done. So if you want, Leslie's right, if you wanted to kind of make a statement again like we did previously, you don't necessarily need to do a full board letter, but if you'd like to have the concept of it being a full board letter and would like to introduce new information.
I would like to introduce.
All right, so then,
new one.
I think there's a plan.
I can.
You're gonna get me questions. We'll try to get those questions answered in time for the June full board for your letter to include information from previous year and the new information you get. And then in addition, we will ask someone from Columbus branch to the director of the branch to maybe attend in June to talk about actually what's happening in the program.
You summed that up beautifully, Jesse.
Yes,
Well
yes,
done.
yes.
I didn't understand, so that.
No, you did understand. I'll explain it to you after.
Well, getting it done, basically.
We're getting it done.
Okay. So the other thing, was there something else that you want to say? Also, July, Matt and I are both not going to be here, so we're not gonna have a meeting in July unless somebody has something dire that's on the agenda. We have to call in or something, but yeah, we're not gonna be here, so.
Yeah, and remember your July full board is at the end of the month, so I mean, it'd probably be best if there's other things you guys want to talk about. Think about it being in June.
Yeah.
That's the 8th, right, Jesse? The 8th, I think, July 8th would be canceled, would be, okay.
Do you know, Jesse, when we're going to hear back about appointments, because it would be nice.
I believe by the end of this week, we will,
Oh, great.
maybe by the end of tomorrow,
Okay,
but
yeah.
somebody, BP's office says, I'll get it to you tomorrow, and I say, I'll
Right.
give it to you Friday.
Okay,
So I think by the end of this week, we should know first for ourselves about appointments.
that would be great, because then that could be part of the June meeting, like introducing new members and.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be lovely.
Okay, does anybody else, want to see anything else in June? I was thinking about doing something for Juneteenth. Inviting, I know the Times Square does something, for Juneteenth, it would be nice to have them come in and have like a kind of, the Broadway, I don't know which Broadway organization it is, but they do something, so I can look that up and try to get the information for Jesse.
I would love it.
Is there anything else?
Well, I guess the only other thing is, do we want to have somebody come tell us or give us an update about how, the summer youth employment program is looking, how many people they're employing?
Great idea.
Which one is this?
Summer youth
youth.
employment.
We mean Juneteenth, that's when they last people, the
Yeah.
taxes found out that's. like-
So I'm inviting
Exactly.
Alexander back.
So it'd be like this world.
I should, yeah, DYCD, right? That's-
Celebrations, they do stuff locally.
It'd be like,
It'd be
what?
nice.
Just happened.
So
No, but they like that, they love that.
Library and some of you.
All right, so June is looking for DYCD Summer Youth, possibly Columbus Branch Library. Was there something else?
Something on
Greenwich House. Greenwich House.
Oh, yeah, British.
Oh, and I had something else. There's a dance
Oh.
company organization that's still.
Okay, so let's talk.
So we have another one. So
Okay.
Oh,
we have a big old agenda, which is good.
And maybe new members. Okay.
Dance.
Okay, any other new business?
Well, thank you, Jesse, for getting the UN Foundation.
You're welcome. It was great.
Yeah.
It's been done.
Yeah, the one library letter.
Yeah.
But I was also wondering, do we wanna do a letter, about the, English classes at the Hercs and, thanking them basically for coming and saying we'd love to follow up on
On the
this
survey?
idea of the survey.
Yeah, I mean, so we have that letter, right? from
That I think can be an ad,
Yeah,
unless you guys feel like it needs to be a board letter, but
I don't think it's new information. I think
it's not no
it's
information.
specifically about the survey. I do think it's worthwhile following up because it seemed like it was like, oh yeah, it's a great idea. Like, well, we thought about that a year ago.
Yeah.
So I do think it's worthwhile following up on that.
I'd be happy to take a look at last year's letter and then just maybe more.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And send it to
And I
you.
think the thank you is good.
Do we have to vote on that or can we
No,
just say,
no.
okay?
Motion to adjourn?
All right, thanks everyone.
Okay. Hey, Jesse.
Thanks,